What's the hardest thing about writing? Well, it's getting started. Maybe you're having a hard time coming up with a story idea, or you're stuck on where to take your story next. If you want a way into a story or a way through, I have 9 story starters to help you. This free PDF is full of story seeds and prompts to get you going. To download your 9 story starters, go to nancypanuccio.com/start. That's Nancy with an I, Panuccio with 2 C's, nancypanuccio.com/start. Don't trap your reader inside the character's head. Balance inner thoughts with action, movement, and external stimuli to keep the story engaging. Writer Unleashed is for you, a writer who has a story you want to bring onto the page and into the hearts and minds of readers. I'm Nancy Panuccio, writer, editor, and writing coach. And each week, we'll explore techniques, mindsets, and inspiration for writing stories readers can't put down. Thanks for spending some time with me today. Now let's begin. Many writers are naturally drawn to first-person narration. It helps them feel their way into their character. First-person narration puts readers directly into a character's head, creating an intimate and immediate experience. This perspective allows for deep emotional connection and personal stakes, but it also comes with unique challenges. Unlike third person, which has more narrative range, first person is limited to what the narrator knows, sees, and feels. Now, this can be a strength or a weakness depending on how you use it. So in this episode, I'm going to give you 4 major pitfalls I see with first-person manuscripts I edit or coach and how to avoid them. Now, if you're writing in third person, these tips will still help you. While these pitfalls are more common in first person, the techniques I'll share will most definitely help you in third person narration as well. So let's get right to it. Pitfall number 1, too much introspection. Now, while inner monologue is a strength of first person, when we're too much inside a character's head, it can feel claustrophobic. It can slow the pacing and bore the reader. So you want to keep the balance between thoughts and action. You want to keep your first-person narrator grounded in the action of the story. You want to keep him or her moving through time and space. Here's an example from Angie Thomas's young adult novel, The Hate You Give. Here's the opening of the novel. I shouldn't have come to this party. I'm not even sure I belong at this party. That's not some bougie shit either. There are just some places where it's not enough to be me, either version of me. Big G's spring break party is one of those places. Okay, so far we know where she is, but now she's going to move through space. I squeeze through sweaty bodies and follow Kenya, her curls bouncing past her shoulders. A haze lingers over the room, smelling like weed, and music rattles the floor. Some rapper calls out for everybody to nay-nay, followed by a bunch of hays as people launch into their own versions. Kenya holds up her cup and dances her way through the crowd between the headache from the loud-ass music and the nausea from the weed odor. I'll be amazed if I cross the room without spilling my drink. Okay, we're getting her thoughts. We're moving through the physical space of the scene with her. So we're not just in her head, we're in her body as she moves through the party. Later in the opening chapter, we get this. A commotion stirs in the middle of the dance floor. Voices argue louder than the music. Cuss words fly left and right. My first thought? Kenya walked up on Denasia like she promised. But the voices are deeper than theirs. Pop, a shot rings out. I duck. Pop, a second shot. The crowd stampedes towards the door, which leads to more cussing and fighting since it's impossible for everybody to get out at once. Okay, so we're in the middle of the action and we're getting Star's play-by-play reactions as it's happening. Now, for more on character thought, listen to episode 69. How to create plot continuity with character thought. Episode 69, I'll link in the show notes. But you want to make sure that you're blending character thought into the action, that it's not just the character thought, but that it's interposed with the action. Okay, on to pitfall number 2, lack of scene awareness. Often I'll read a first-person narrative that lacks a physical setting. So the first-person narrator appears to be disembodied in this undefined space. Again, we're trapped inside the character's mind with no sense of grounding. Often, first-person narrators will start totally in the character's head without locating us in a particular space, or they'll establish where their narrator is too late in the scene. Now, notice that when we first meet the first-person narrator Star in The Hate You Give, we're in the midst of a party that she doesn't feel she belongs in. And as the scene continues and shots start firing, we see that, in fact, she does not belong there. Every scene places us in a particular setting. It's anchored in a particular place. For example, after Star flees the party, she's outside in the street. It's a new scene. Cars speed away outside and people run into the night in any direction where shots aren't firing off. Khalil leads me to a Chevy Impala parked under a dim streetlight. He pushes me in through the driver's side and I climb into the passenger seat. We screech off, leaving chaos in the rearview mirror. Further down the page, we get this. Khalil's Impala is nice. Not all splashy like some guys' cars. I didn't see any rims before I got in, and the front seat has cracks in the leather. But the interior is a tacky lime green, so it's been customized at some point. Now, what happens at the end of this scene in Chapter 1 is that Khalil is stopped by the police. In Chapter 2, we learn that he was fatally shot, and the rest of the novel is Star's attempt to deal with the ramifications of that trauma and to do something about it. Now, if I go to any random scene or chapter opening, I know where this narrator is as she experiences, thinks about, and reports the action. And it's all related to the traumatic event that happened after the party. For example, here's how we enter Chapter 6. My mom and I arrive at the police station at 4:30 on the dot. A handful of cops talk on phones, type on computers, or stand around. Normal stuff, like on Law and Order, but my breath catches. I count 1, 2, 3, 4. I lose count around 12 because the guns in their holsters are all I can see. So we're in a particular place. We see what she sees and what she thinks about what she sees. We're not just getting scene after scene being inside her head without her thoughts being anchored in a particular setting, in a particular situation related to her main story problem. So as a reading exercise, turn to any story you admire, whether it's in first or third person, and look for how soon the author places you in a particular setting and situation. How does the character move through space and time in any particular scene? And how soon do we know where the character is as he or she experiences the action? Okay, on to pitfall number 3, forced info dumping. Since first person is limited to the narrator's knowledge, sometimes we'll get clunky exposition like, as you know, Mom, we moved here 5 years ago when Dad got his new job. But that's not how people really talk to one another. Sure, you can use dialogue to sneak in some relevant backstory, but it needs to feel like something the characters would actually say to one another. So think of backstory as significant history. Every story has a memory. It's significant because it shows how the character came into the story with his or her particular desire. It's related to the character's core desire or problem and the current situation. For example, in Chapter 2 of The Hate You Give, before we learn about Khalil's murder at the hands of a cop, Star gives us some relevant information by way of memory. When I was 12, my parents had 2 talks with me. One was the usual birds and bees. Well, I didn't really get the usual version. My mom, Lisa, is a registered nurse and told me what went where and what didn't need to go here, there, or any damn where till I'm grown. Back then, I doubted anything was going anywhere anyway, while all the other girls sprouted breasts between 6th and 7th grade. My chest was as flat as my back. The other talk was about what to do if a cop stopped me. Mama fussed and told Daddy I was too young for that. He argued that I wasn't too young to get arrested or shot. Star, you do whatever they tell you to do, he said. Keep your hands visible. Don't make any sudden moves. Only speak when they speak to you. I knew it must have been serious. Daddy has the biggest mouth of anybody I know, and if he said to be quiet, I needed to be quiet. I hope somebody had that talk with Khalil. So notice it's relevant to the situation. It isn't just inserted for the reader. It's not just information, it's relevant. So having established the relevant backstory at the beginning of Chapter 2, she moves back into the present. He cusses under his breath, then turns Tupac down and maneuvers the Impala to the side of the street. We're on Carnation, where most of the houses are abandoned and half the streetlights are busted. Nobody around but us and the cop. So again, notice that after we get significant history, what she learned from her father, we're launched back into the present where we left off at the end of Chapter 1, and we're in a particular place. Khalil turns the ignition off. Wonder what this fool wants, he says. The officer parks and puts his brights on. I blink to keep from being blinded. Okay, so her thoughts are embedded in the action. I remember something else Daddy said. If you're with somebody, you better hope they don't have nothing on them or both y'all going down. So she asks Khalil if he has anything in the car, and Khalil says, nah. So the officer approaches, asks for his license, registration, and proof of insurance, and Khalil breaks a rule. He doesn't do what the cop wants. What you pull us over for? License, registration, and proof of insurance. I said, what you pull us over for? Khalil, I plead, do what he said. So this goes on where the cops keep insisting, and Khalil is righteously asking why they were stopped. And it ends badly for Khalil, who did nothing wrong, but who is fatally shot. But notice why the relevant backstory was included at the beginning of this chapter. It's relevant to the situation she and Khalil are in, and it makes Khalil's righteous demand for an answer all the more dangerous and tense. We read because we're fearing what will happen next. Okay, on to pitfall number 4. More telling than showing. First person can sometimes lead to excessive telling. Instead of, I was terrified, you want to show the character's physical reaction in the moment. For example, in that tense scene with the cop, here's how the author shows Star's terror in the moment. My parents haven't raised me to fear the police, just to be smart around them. They told me it's not smart to move while a cop has his back to you. Khalil does. He comes to his door. It's not smart to make a sudden move. Khalil does. He opens the driver's door. You okay, Star? Pow. 1. Khalil's body jerks. Blood spatters from his back. He holds onto the door to keep himself upright. Pow. 2. Khalil gasps. Pow. 3. Khalil looks at me stunned. He falls to the ground. An ear-splitting scream emerges from my gut, explodes in my throat, and uses every inch of me to be heard. Instinct says, don't move, but everything else says, check on Khalil. I jump out the Impala and rush around to the other side. Khalil stares at the sky as if he hopes to see God. His mouth is open like he wants to scream. I scream loud enough for the both of us. No, no, no is all I can say, like I'm a year old, and it's the only word I know. I'm not sure how I end up on the ground next to him. My mom once said that if someone gets shot, try to stop the bleeding, but there's so much blood, too much blood. No, no, no. Khalil doesn't move. He doesn't utter a word. He doesn't even look at me. His body stiffens and he's gone. I hope he sees God. Okay, so again, the action evokes the emotion. She's responding to what's happening in the moment. Terrified doesn't even cut it. It's too small a word to capture what she's feeling in this moment. The shock, the grief, the out-of-body experience of watching your friend die violently right in front of you. So you want to put yourself into your character's experience and physically imagine it. Embody it yourself to make it feel real. Okay, let's wrap this up. First-person narration creates an intimate and immediate connection between readers and the protagonist. But to make the most of this perspective, you need to avoid some common pitfalls. Number 1, too much introspection. Don't trap your reader inside the character's head. Balance inner thoughts with action, movement, and external stimuli to keep the story engaging. Number 2, lack of scene awareness. Always anchor your reader in a specific place and time. Your character exists in a physical world, and your reader should feel that presence in every scene. Number 3, forced info dumping. Avoid unnatural exposition. Instead, weave backstory seamlessly into the present moment, making it relevant to the character's current situation. And number 4, more telling than showing. Let actions, dialogue, and sensory details convey emotions instead of relying on direct statements like, I was scared. Mastering first-person narration is about finding the right balance between the thought and action, introspection and movement, emotion and restraint. When done well, it creates an immersive, powerful experience for the reader. So there you have it. Thanks for hanging out with me today. And if you know any writers who need some support in their writing, please share this episode or the Writer Unleashed podcast in general. And if you love what you're listening to, subscribe on your favorite listening platform and please leave me a review. Reading how this podcast impacts your writing truly lights me up and helps me create topics for the show. Till next time, keep writing, and I'll talk to you soon.